Hello, this is Terry Ensberg. Today's quote is, "If voting made any difference, they wouldn't let us do it." Mark Twain said that. This quote resonates with me right now because of the experience I had recently voting by mail. We received our ballots in the mail, and from the minute our ballots arrived, I was gripped with a fear that I would somehow fill it out wrong, do it wrong, mail it wrong, sign it wrong, date it wrong, and squander my vote. Before my ballot arrived, I was afraid it wouldn't arrive. So it came, and then I was afraid if I vote early and either of the candidates dies from COVID, let's say, what happens to the ballots, to the votes that have already been placed? So I waited a week or so and researched that, and I decided I'm just going to go ahead and vote, and I'm going to put it in a box, not in the mail, because the mail service is not that reliable right now. So we have propositions in California, so my husband and I talked about all the propositions and the judges and all these things, but of course it's the presidential election that really matters. So I felt very anxious filling it out, afraid I'd, I don't know, hit the wrong dot or something. And then it came time to fill out the outside of the envelope, and I was afraid I would sign my name wrong, and then the date section said like month, day, year, and it wasn't clear. Do you actually write on top of those letters or below? And I thought, if I fill out the date wrong, will I have thrown away my vote? And then I realized I'd forgotten the address part, and my husband caught that, so filled that out. My sister and I were researching how to fill in the date part. She called headquarters to find out, and this spiraled into a ridiculous thing. Finally, Steve, my husband, took my ballot on his way to work to drop it off at the box at the library, and it was like, oh, finally. And then right after that, I read that there are some fake boxes that have been placed around to divert votes away from ever being counted. So what? Well, the meaning of this for me is that my feeling, not my intellectual understanding, but my feeling was that my own vote, my single vote, would determine the outcome of the election. That was kind of the intensity that I loaded it with. That was the level of responsibility I felt. I was terrified of failing in my responsibility as a responsible citizen, as a voter, and I became gripped by the feeling that I had more control than I did. I think there's great symbolic meaning in every vote counting, and I think every vote together counts, but any one vote doesn't count in the sense of tipping the election. But I got the feeling that mine was going to be the magic vote that would tip the election, and the amount of anxiety that went into filling out that ballot was just ridiculous by the time I got to the end of it. I'm so glad it's done, for better or worse. And it made me reflect on control, and I ask you, do you ever imagine you have more control over something than you really do? Because I find that I fall into that when I don't want to feel helpless. As anxious as feeling that I have more control than I do makes me feel, it also has kind of a substrata of reassurance that I'm not helpless because I'm really in control. I may screw it up, I may get it wrong, but I'm the one who's really calling the shots here. And the minute that becomes conscious, then the absurdity of it also becomes evident. The idea that my single vote is going to make or break the presidential election, of course, is just a statistical piece of nonsense. Another manifestation of this tendency of mine that I experienced this summer was that I planted a vegetable container garden earlier in the summer, and it did really well. I used really good soil. I don't know that much about it, but it did go really well until Labor Day. And over Labor Day, it was 115, and about that for about 2 or 3 days. After that, the vegetables were never the same. And I kept thinking, what have I done wrong? Should I have watered them more? And I probably should have. But they looked very strange, and I just felt like, wow, I went to all this trouble and some expense to plant these things, and now I blew it. They're dying, or they don't look good, or they never develop fully, or they just don't look good. They don't look right. And I looked at the bell peppers and realized these are burned. These aren't just dry, these are burnt, like someone held a match to them. And it dawned on me that they simply could not survive 115 degrees. I don't think anything's really designed to survive 115 degrees, any living thing on this planet, with very few exceptions. And again, it was a case of me attributing to myself control I don't really have. In one sense, I do. I could have moved the pots. I mean, there were sort of extreme measures I could have taken to protect them better. I could have rotated all of them, into and out of the garage or something. But there was no reasonable way to protect them from extreme heat like that. And as soon as I realized it wasn't really in my control, it as a hot, if you think about the amount of effort you put into a hobby within those confines, I felt better, because it's true, I didn't have the control I thought I did. But it wasn't, it was outside. I don't control the weather. Okay, newsflash, I don't control the weather. And I felt better when I really thought about it like that. So if you are one of my grandchildren listening to this, somewhere along the line, someone is going to tell you, if they haven't already, that you can do anything you want to do, you can be anything you want to be. And that's a nice inspirational thought. And it's meant to motivate you and keep you from quitting too soon on things. But I'm here to tell you that you are only as smart as you are. You are only as large as you are. You are only as powerful as you are. And that's a gift. And you can do and be anything you want within your human limits. And if anybody ever tries to put on you the weight of doing more than your human limits allow, you would be smart to reject that. Because that, even though it may give you a feeling, an underlying feeling of power, in the long run it will not make you happier. It will make you crazier. So thank you very much for listening to me. Goodbye. Talk to you later.